皆さんこんにちは。お元気ですか? Hi guys, I'm Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today, while surfing on the internet, I actually stumbled upon a manga which I'm definitely sure you guys don't know. And that's the reason why I'm making this video. Now, in spite of putting so much of effort into this colorful manga, I really felt that this manga did not get the attention which it deserves. So it made me make a video on this underappreciated manga. But before I start why you should watch this manga, let me tell you that you can also help learning Japanese using this manga. I'll tell you how in the next video which I'll upload as a lesson to learn Japanese from this manga. Stay tuned for that. Okay, so the name of this manga is Kuro. Kuro literally means black in Japanese and it's written by Somato. Now the worst part about this manga which I found was on the internet there is hardly anything about this manga except for this poor little description of the story which is way more pathetic than it seems. Now when you read this description you would hardly feel like going and watching this video. Instead I would just say it sounds very boring. But when you actually read the manga you realize it's not that bad and it's worth giving a try. When you continue with the story, you start getting the idea that the story is way more interesting than what the description shows. So, in today's video, I am gonna describe what this manga is like, and at the end, if you feel it is of your type, then please go out and check it out. So, my work of putting exposure on these little underrated mangas which truly deserve attention if you feel is worth taking, then please do share this with your friends and other weebs out there. So now when all the shitty talk is done, I think it's time to start the story. Let's get started. The manga seems to be so beautiful even at the first glance. I mean, so colorful, the plot is nice, and as you move forward with the manga, you see that apart from the day-to-day activities and few of the boring lessons at the first, this manga also has a creepy horror. It is a mystery as well as a slice-of-life manga. So let's read this manga. With the first page beginning, we have two portraits over here. One is of a little girl named Coco. Coco is one of our main characters, and the next one is Kuro, her pet cat. Kuro, that's what the name of the manga is, right? So the manga is named on this little cat, and that's what the story is about, this little cat. Now when you turn the next page, we see a few more characters here. On the left we have Maria, on the right we have Milk, then we have Brenda, her daughter is Sisane, and then we have Doctor. I'll introduce you to each one of them as the story proceeds. Now when you're ready to know the characters, it's time to begin our story. The first character, the little but a mysterious girl named Coco. Her dark and her mysterious background continues to create a suspense till the very end of the story. Now something strange happened to Coco's parents, which made her die. Coco doesn't seem to remember anything of it, neither she shows an inclination to wonder where her parents are or what happened to them. Doctor says that Coco has been doing this subconsciously because she forgot her memory of the accident. Coco lives in an extremely huge mansion, and not to mention extremely luxurious as well, for just two of them. Her and her pet cat, Kuro. Just two of them. In the flashback, you'll see that Coco adored her dad, and she wanted to be a florist like him. She grows the white flowers every week and harvests them to the doctor. But in spite of being such a good girl, the town folks hate her. They're happy when she doesn't come around. And whenever she steps out of her mansion, the kids start hiding, as if she's a ghost. But hey, did I tell you this? The current world in which Coco and her folks live is captivated by monsters. Now these monsters are just needing a remain of any animal to get hold of it. When a monster dies, some sort of black worm kind of thing comes out of his body. It will find another dead animal, make it a host, and turn it eventually into a monster. This is a cycle which goes on, and the world is ruled by monsters these days. Humans are evacuating. Now this takes me to another point. The villagers believe that Kuro is possessed by a monster. Partially. This is because maybe when Kuro was attacked by the worm, he was badly injured but not dead. That made him turn into a partial monster. If he was a complete monster, he wouldn't be living with Coco. In fact, he would have killed her immediately. There are instances where we see Coco was healed by Kuro. That means Kuro is not a complete monster. In fact, he tries to protect Coco from the monsters many a times in the manga. He is a symbiosis between an innocent cat, half occupied by a monster. But wait a minute. You might be like, Doesn't Coco seem to realize that Kuro is not a normal cat? The answer to this is no. Apparently because she cannot see monsters. Now that's because in the manga it is justified that Coco did not receive a vaccination. Vaccination is something that would allow you to see monsters. But the doctor that we saw at the beginning actually prepares this vaccine and a white paint using special white flowers to protect the town from these monsters. These white flowers grow specially in Coco's garden. Every month, she brings this to the doctor and gets paid for it. This vaccine can be taken only after 6 months a kid turns 6 years old. Since she couldn't take the vaccine because she met with an accident and lost her parent at the very same age. Now she cannot be benefited from her own flowers that grow in her own garden. It's just like the idiom that I heard, the cobbler's children have no shoes. We have seen in the manga that she's somewhere aware of Kuro's strangeness, but she still doesn't accept the fact because she loves Kuro. And she cannot really accept that he is a monster. Now this all started the day the first chapter of the manga says Kuro ran from her house. But he later came back on his own, which was really strange. Now from that day onward, Coco several times wondered that maybe it was not really Kuro that came back that day, but a completely strange, different cat. But again, she neglected this fact in her affection for Kuro. After all, he was the only one he knew. Apart from Kuro, there's only one friend that she has in the town, and she is Milk. Milk was also treating Coco as her best friend. Coco used to write stories, while Milk was good at drawing, so used to draw pictures for her stories. They both had a great time together, and Milk finally found her best friend. Once they were playing in the garden, when Milk combed Coco's hair, and she noticed that her hair was turning white. Milk knew that this happens when a monster tries to suck nutrients from a living organism. Now this was clear. Milk was vaccinated. She could see that Kuro was indeed a monster and he was living up on Coco. He was the reason why Coco's life was becoming so miserable. And she wanted to save her friend from this monster, so one day she planned. She planned that she has to make Coco realize that she is her best friend and she hasn't have to be dependent on Kuro. Kuro was the reason why she was so miserable. So she went to Kuro and tried killing him. But seems Kuro didn't like the plan. He attacked her. She cried in pain and thankfully doctor came at the spot. He set her to run away from Kuro and he was about to attack him with a gun. Just when we see that Coco comes into the picture. She comes out of the mansion and she's very angry because they attacked Kuro. Coco says, "Please leave and never come back." She said those hard words to her only best friend that she ever had, just for the sake of Kuro. Meanwhile, let me introduce you to Brenda. She is Coco's private tutor and as well as her daughter, Sisei. Now she was the one who was consistently nice to Coco from the beginning and she doesn't seem to mind Kuro because she knows it protects Coco. Now, one day Sisei, the little one, actually didn't know that it was a bad idea. She was vaccinated and she also experienced that he was something like a monster and not an ordinary cat. So one day, Sisem took a paper and drew Kuro over it. She came running and showed it to Coco saying, "Hey, I've drawn Kuro, look." Actually, she drew Kuro as a multi-eyed monster with tentacles coming out of his mouth. Coco didn't like this. She lost her patience and she just said, after tearing the paper into pieces, "Can you please go home?" And is he saying, "He's not like that. Remember, Kuro is not like that." She didn't want to accept the fact that everyone said Kuro was a monster. She cried. And anyone who said a word against Kuro was no less than his monster. Because for her, the only person whom she remembered very well was Kuro, and Kuro was her family. Another friend, just a friend that Coco once had, was Maria. Now, Maria actually seems to be very stone-hearted into the manga, but she's not. She's really kind and she also loves Coco. Coco is one of her great friends that she ever had. They both used to spend a great time together. She became harsh only when she lost her brother by a monster, and that made her turn a little bitter. It's only Kuro's presence and Maria's hatred for monster that make their friendship difficult. The day Maria realized that Kuro was a monster and Coco was living with her, she wanted to tell her the truth. She tried telling it several times, but Coco did not believe her. She said she must come to her senses, but Coco always thought that Maria was trying to take Kuro away from her. Maria cried, saying, "I don't want Coco to go. I know she'll eventually end up dying if she lives with Kuro." But there was nothing that she could do. Now the story starts getting more and more serious as the darker elements of the story are slowly getting pulled towards the forefront. The mystery is becoming more clear nowadays. Coco lost her friends. She loved Kuro, but she could never accept the fact that he was a monster. Coco's mood shifts dramatically. She stops leaving her house and she refuses to let visitors in, although she used to send the flowers every time. She stopped going to the town and she started drawing curtains. One day, Maria saw from the peeping window that she was playing with Kuro and she had completely turned white. Her purple hair had turned white. Indeed, that means she was almost merged with a monster. And no sooner there was the possibility that Kuro could kill her. What happens to her? Does she fully turn into a monster? And can doctor save her? Will the original Kuro ever return? Or will Maria lose another friend after losing her brother? And what exactly is hidden in the past of Coco? Her parents, what happened to them? All these questions are unanswered and I'm not going to tell that. You have to read the manga for it. And of course, I would not force you to read the manga unless and until you really loved it. If you like the plot and if you want a good manga, then please do share this with your friends as well. If you want me to make more such videos on manga recommendations, underrated, rated one, then do let me know. That's all for today's video. Mata ne!